what's up, everybody? Welcome once again to IGN News, Games, and More. This is the show that we do every weekday, whatever that means in 2020. I'm Max Scoville, and I'm joined by my pals Sydney Goodman, Janet Garcia,
Hola.
and Seth Macy. And we are here to tell you about all of the things that have been happening in the world of video games and news and entertainment and all of that none such. One of the big ones. Let's get right going right off the bat here. They're gonna make some new video game consoles this year. Supposedly, they got new little boxes that you go down to the store and you buy them, and they put the games in there, and you can play them real good. But there's some discussion about whether or not what video games might be costing, because there's maybe they might cost more. Who knows? They might have more graphics for the newer consoles. And there's a report going around that Xbox, the folks at Microsoft, are talking to companies working on cross-gen games to offer any upgrades that go between an Xbox One, Xbox One X game, and an Xbox Series X game. Those upgrades should be at no additional cost. They are basically pressuring the people making the games to just make the game, make it run good on anything. Don't make it cost $70 on the new system and $60 on the old one. Don't try to sell people bells and whistles. How do you guys feel about this, Janet? Let's kick it off with you.
I think it's great for the consumer if it does get pulled off. I mean, I think especially in the last few generations, with the games being more iterative or being cross-platform, like I think we've gotten farther and farther away from like console exclusives and also like gen exclusives. And as we've moved towards that, the like purchasing of games and the selling of games hasn't really caught up to speed with that convenience factor. Microsoft's certainly leading the way in this idea of play anywhere. We just want you in the ecosystem. And I feel like this is them pushing that even further to like really sell that as the main staple of what you get when you align yourself with Microsoft as a gamer. So I think from a gamer perspective, it's definitely a win. I can't really speak to what the development side of that is, or whether or not that will like seriously damage the bottom line in a way that isn't sustainable or something that can be expanded. But I think just purely as a gamer, it's something to get excited about.
Sid, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, to echo what Janet's saying, I think it's a very pro-consumer move. It's fantastic. I think it goes without saying, or hopefully it's obvious, that I am pro-consumer and I am enjoying the fact that smart delivery exists. With all that said, I think it's it's interesting because Xbox and Microsoft are benefiting greatly from this idea of being pro-consumer and smart delivery existing. However, the people or the development teams are really who is, I don't want to say getting hurt by this, but who is seeing the effects of this, because Microsoft, what I think I looked it up, and this is like really lazy internet research, don't take my word on it, but they make like $7 or something like that per game. So they're losing that revenue, which obviously adds up, but think about how much the developers are losing. And I don't think they're being compensated for Microsoft offering smart delivery, but from a consumer's perspective, I know I'm like, wow, that's great that they're doing that. Like Xbox for life, this is great. But to echo Janet's sentiment, I don't know how sustainable this is for development studios, especially ones who aren't selling games like they're the hallmark game of the century, like Cyberpunk 2077. So I am interested to see that if more development studios and publishers kind of follow the way of EA, where they're offering dual entitlement, and that has a little bit more parameters around that. For example, if you get Madden 21, I think you have to purchase it by a certain date. It's like December 31st, 2020, and you get the free next-gen upgrade until Madden 22 comes out. And I don't know if they feel good about doing that, because I would imagine most people who buy Madden, once Madden 22 comes out, most people probably aren't trying to get Madden 21, would be my guess. But that probably also helps with not guaranteeing any time during this next console generation, you will get a free upgrade for this game. It kind of helps put the potential losses in a little box. So I don't know. I think it sounds great on surface, but like, how is this actually going to work in a business standpoint?
I guess the interesting thing is that the way we're looking at sort of what Xbox is doing is that they're really, you hit on this, but it's this sort of ecosystem. It's this family of consoles where, like, in a weird way, like Series X, it's a next-gen console, but it's not like the next-gen games aren't quite here yet, or they will be eventually, but they're kind of like, I don't know, it's hard to describe, but it feels more like like a PC upgrade. If you buy a PC game, it theoretically works on your PC if your PC can run it, and that's kind of really your problem. Like what kind of hardware you have there is on you. As far as compatibility goes, like it would be weird if it's like, oh, you want to have. I guess the thing is, if you're going to have the highest graphical fidelity, that's on you as the consumer to pay extra for the machine that can make those graphics happen. And it's on the developer side of things, like they should just make the game and make sure that it runs. And we run into a weird thing with that with console gaming because, like, I don't know, I feel like we're used to this idea of like a console generation, but we're in this weird point where it's more of like a kind of a gradient. Seth, you want to weigh in on this?
Yeah, I think it's really cool, but I'm kind of cynical about it because, like you're saying, sort of the PC hardware. I feel like Xbox is moving towards basically a very closed PC model. So if you have a PC right now with like a 960 in it, you don't have to pay to buy another copy of the game because you put a 1080 in it. You know what I mean? Or like a 2060 or something. Like you don't have, if you upgrade your hardware, you don't have to buy a new game. They just throw some more graphics in there. Open up the graphic, what do they call that? The lever where the graphics fall out into your machine. Jar. The graphics jar. Yeah, they uncork the graphics jar and they just sprinkle some more graphics in there. No, I mean, I think I think that this is like inherent in the ecosystem of the Xbox. I think a game designed, at least at the start of this generation, forgive my main accent there, they're designed to work on both machines regardless. So I think it's like the same game with just a higher graphics pack that can take advantage of the hardware of the Series X or take advantage of the One X. That's just me being wildly speculative, but I think it's just the same game and they just sprinkle some more graphics in there.
What I think is odd is that, so with Xbox, it's basically, they're very clear that this is still the Xbox brand. They're not calling it the Series X is not the Xbox 2. It's the latest in a series of X. It's very hard to tell the names apart. I feel like it's going to have like a weird confusion. It's like the iPhone family logic where like I don't even remember what kind of phone I have anymore because they keep changing the weird numbers and jumping around and stuff. But it's going to be interesting to see how Sony answers it because they very clearly have like much more of a separation where it's like we are over on that side of things. It is going from a PlayStation 4 to a PlayStation 5, and I feel like, I'm thinking about like last gen, they made a lot of the sort of the what is now current gen launch games. Like for instance, like Destiny or Watch Dogs were cross-platform. But if you went out and if you bought those games, if you bought if you bought Watch Dogs digitally on PS3, I don't even know if you could even do that. I can't remember. But like if you were to buy that and then you went out and bought a PS4, it's not like you could just kind of download the PS4 version. But things have kind of changed since then. We got kind of sort of the soft, mid generation shift of the Xbox One X and the PS4 Pro, and it would be like totally weird if they were like, no, you cannot. Like that would be some like what was the RAM pack you put in the N64? Like the
I think it was just called the RAM pack.
Well, yeah, it was like that kind of logic to be like, oh, you're trying to play a PS4 Pro game on a regular PS4, like that's not happening. That's against the rules. So I don't know. I guess it's nice to hear that on the sort of business side of things that Microsoft isn't being like, oh, you want to charge extra for the same game on a different piece of hardware? Like, go for it. They're kind of being like, no, we want people to stick around. Like, let's make it fairer on that side of things. So anyway,
so I have a quick question. Because I am somebody who, during this console generation, got really into PC gaming. And prior to that, I was very, like, outside of playing The Sims and, like, casually PC gaming, I was very just, like, head in the ground, console only, whatever. So I very much was conditioned for this console generation. Do any of you guys PC game?
Oh, yeah.
But not like... I'm more of a console person, but go on.
Got it. I'm a console person at heart, but I have been conned into playing a lot of PC lately. I digress. So would you say that this model definitely feels a lot more like PC at the heart of, thinking about replacing parts, whatever, you only buy the game once. That all makes sense to me. Do you think that is... I don't know how to say this in like a way that actually makes sense outside of my brain. Do you think that is because PC gaming is becoming more accessible and more people are getting into PC gaming, so it benefits them to become synonymous with that? Or do I just think that because I just started PC gaming? Or do you think we've seen a wave of
I think it fits
PC
into
gaming?
like Microsoft's roots as a company, and like their ethos is like has been that for the last like the majority of, I'd say, the Xbox One generation. Obviously, it was off to a very rocky start, but even just thinking of like the Series X and the Elite controller, they're sort of very into like pushing their hardwares and their peripherals and the things that they are known for, which is like the tech side of things, and like the PC side of stuff. Like that's their roots. So I feel like this is them kind of playing to what their strengths are as a company. And then I also feel like, and this is sort of a little bit of, I don't know how relevant this actually is to how they determine their business practices, but I've always aligned Microsoft with shooters. Like PlayStation was always, I guess, just, I don't know, really good exclusives, and they have like from a variety of genres. But with Microsoft, it was always like, they had that aggression that like Halo, it sort of carried that as the brand, even in like the coloring and like just everything, Gears, right? Like when you think of their touchstone franchises and their games and what you associate with Microsoft, it is a lot of like these more shooter performance heavy games, and I think that also lends itself well to the PC audience. So I could see Microsoft just generally, like Xbox and that family, being appealing to people from either a PC gaming background or who just have that perspective of really appreciating high-end performance. And so I think it kind of caters to both of those audiences. I'm not sure if it's so much like Microsoft is noticing the rise of PC gaming and trying to like get in on that wave. I think that maybe is an element. Like I'm sure they're aware of what their consumers are like, but I think it's also like, yeah, that's basically, I was going to say basically the same thing, but
Microsoft manages to kind of play both sides of the field, because if they can't win somebody over with, with an Xbox family of consoles or whatever, and those people go over and they're like, I'm going to play PC instead. It's like, all right, well, you're probably going to buy a copy of Windows. Like, what are you going to do? Like, you're going to run Cyberpunk on Linux?
Definitely not going to pirate a copy of Windows, because then you'd be in trouble.
Right.
Yeah. No, I mean, people, they get it, but it's like there's still like enough sort of, Microsoft is they're kind of playing both sides of the field there. You see this with sort of the Game Pass Ultimate, where like they're like, yeah, you want to play it on Xbox, go for it. You want to play it on Windows, we don't care. It's whatever. Yeah. It's in that whole ecosystem. Whereas, we're just seeing Sony with with Horizon coming to PC or Death Stranding coming to PC, they're kind of loosening up on that side of things, being like, I guess that's how you get people interested in actual IPs and having them kind of come over. Anyway, it's interesting to talk about it. I feel like, there's a lot of very iterative, gradual tweaks that happen in terms of video games, both the games themselves, but how we consume them and how we get used to them. So it'll be weird to see what this looks like a while from now. I mean, it seems like just 20 minutes ago that it was like, oh, downloading a game, I don't know about that. That's wild. Anyway, shifting gears, let's talk about PlayStation 5 a little bit. Specifically, let's talk about some Bugsnax. Jonathan Dornbush, our good pal who's on this show here and there and hosts Podcast Beyond, which I'm on sometimes, sat down with Phil Tibitowski from Young Horses, which is the studio that did Octodad and is currently working on Bugsnax, which was the sort of sleeper hit of the PS5 reveal, which, because it has the song and the strawberry with the googly eyes, we could talk about Bugsnax until we get Young Horse. We got some details on the DualSense controller, which is something I'm really curious about. I feel like if things were happening normally in 2020, we would have at some point gotten hands-on with the DualSense and been like, we'd be arguing about how cool the vibrations from the haptic feedback stuff would be. And we would have been able to touch the controller at E3, but that didn't happen. So we just got this weird graphic where it looked like they were covering it in coconut. But basically, Phil said, in our game, being in first person, running on different terrain, jumping in and out of water, or running into Bugsnax, that is the animals in the game, you can feel the difference between running on grass versus running in water versus running on sand or snow. There's weather in our game, and if there's a thunderstorm and things of that nature, you can feel where the sound is coming from through the vibration, which that sounds awesome. I'm like kind of excited about that, to have like, we have like little haptic cues in games where like, oh, you're dying, your controller is sort of throbbing. But the idea of there being, to have like almost like a physical radar to be like, oh, which direction am I supposed to be going, to have like that side of the controller buzzing a tiny bit. This is kind of exciting to hear about, because aside from the sort of weird Sony sizzle reel we got that we're running right now, we don't really have any actual input on what this weird new controller does. Seth, what do you make about the Bugsnax and the DualSense and the haptic touch feedback and the coconut powdering?
I like all of those things except for coconut. Coconut's gross.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I have to be who I am. But I'm like really excited. This sounds awesome. I'm also very skeptical because when the Switch was introduced, we were promised 3D or HD rumble, and it was gonna be like a glass with ice in it. And I've never experienced that with my Joy-Con, feeling like there was a glass with ice.
Did you play 1-2 Switch?
I did not. Is that where I should have gone?
There you go. That was the game that showed that up, and that was a terrible game that should have been either a pack-in or a WarioWare, but that totally actually played with the haptic stuff. And there was one where your whole thing is you'd hold like the Joy-Con, and you would be like, you'd have to guess how many glass beads were in a wooden box you were holding, and you would like wiggle it around, and it friggin' worked, but they haven't done it for any other games.
Well, then I take it all back, and I'm a full believer in the haptic feedback of the DualSense, and I still hate coconut.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Janet, what do you think about this? Do you think this haptic stuff is going to actually pan out?
Maybe. I think it might help with I think the vibrations being married to the stuff they're doing with sound is what excites me most, and the idea of those working to enhance each other. Because this makes me think of The Last of Us 2, and I thought it had really great audio design and did a great job at giving you a sense of enemy location and pretty accurately. So to me, I see this sort of enhancing that feeling. The thought of different terrain feeling differently is interesting, but I think it'll end up being more of a fun fact than maybe something that's super immersive. It just kind of depends on how will that actually be married to the gameplay. Like in the example of The Last of Us 2, that audio and having spatial awareness was important for locating enemies. But in a game like Bugsnax, is it just going to be fun to just run around? Is it just enhancing the enjoyment of kind of playing around and eating these Bugsnax? Maybe, or maybe it'll just be kind of something that's, this is cute, but not pushing the needle. I think the greatest example to kind of tie back to the Switch and what they did with HD Rumble, I think the best example of HD Rumble was in Ring Fit Adventure, where you strap the Joy-Con to your leg and you have it in the ring, and you can the vibrations would cue you on what movements to do and kind of match that. But that's a very, very specific edge case of a game. So for me, I'm more wondering, will this really push the needle on my holistic Sony experience, or is it just going to be hey, you notice how these 3 games did these 3 things, rather than something that's a notable moment in the gen?
Sid, your thoughts on haptic feedback and or Bugsnax?
Video of somebody showed their 3-year-old the Bugsnax trailer. It's very funny, and they give their commentary, and the kid is like, "Oh no, they ate the strawberry," and it's very cute. You should look it up.
I also felt that way when they ate the strawberry.
Yeah.
Right? Just watching that makes me upset, but it's fine. Well, it's whatever. Anyways, haptic feedback. So maybe I suck. I don't play with vibration on. I always turn it off. It's something that I don't know if it's because I am generally a shooter first type player, and I've always found it distracting. But with that said, I am very, very curious about this, and I'm curious to see how much it's utilized, only because not understanding the development side of things, how hard it is to tailor certain vibrations to fully take advantage of haptic feedback. But are we going to see non-first party studios and non-Sony exclusive games taking advantage of this? Or is it going to be such a draining part of the development process that only a third, if a game's coming out on PC, PS5, and Xbox, that only a third of the audience is actually going to enjoy? I'm curious if devs are just going to kind of not utilize it at all.
It's definitely going to be a first-party thing. I just wonder, Sony has kind of a history of doing this, where there's always some stupid gimmickry attached to new hardware that they just abandon. I jumped into, a couple months ago, I jumped into Infamous Second Son, which is from the guys who are doing Ghost of Tsushima. I was trying to catch up with that, and that was either a PS4 launch game or very close to it.
Yes,
and it's a first-party game. And one of the things they have you doing very first thing, before you are shooting lightning at cops or jumping around or doing parkour, before you do any of that, they have you doing graffiti with the touchpad, and then also you're supposed to shake the controller like it's a paint can, and it's like totally gimmicky, and it's really stupid. And it's clearly they were like, yeah, do this. And I remember like one of the I did a demo for Assassin's Creed Black Flag back in the day, and that was a PS4 launch game. And one of the coolest things you could do in that was to pinch to zoom on the map with the touch thing. And then since then, it's just become like a big crunchy start button, basically. So like,
right, that you accidentally hit sometimes when you're trying to hit the share button.
So like,
don't like touchpads. Well, no, I was just gonna kind of pull the room. I'm curious, am I just an old person like that doesn't adapt to new technology? Like, I just personally don't like touchpads outside of my phone.
No, they're garbage.
Yeah, it doesn't work particularly well. I also feel like, Max, you saying that just makes me really hope that we don't see much motion control stuff in the next gen for PS5, because whenever you have to shake the PS5 controller, it's just awful. Like doing motion controls with a physical, with a standard shaped controller. Like there's a reason that the Wiimote works, even though I don't like the Wiimote, but like the Wiimote works and the Joy-Con individually work because they're smaller pieces that you're like holding individually. But like I remember playing like some of even Concrete Genie and drawing with like you could do it, but I'm like, why would anyone want to do this? Like it just, or even Dreams has some motion control stuff in it, and it just feels awkward. And I know not everyone has those dumb wands they came out with, but like, it's just it ends up being it feels so unnatural compared to the rest of the game often.
I think that motion control we're not going to see much of. If they ever roll out like a PSVR 2, maybe, but I think that that's definitely like a sign of the times. Like that was sort of they emphasized that a decent amount with the PS3 with the 6-axis, where it was like, oh, you can like wiggle it around and that was back when the Wii was hot, so it was like kind of trying to piggyback on that. But I guess I'm just maybe I'm a simpleton and a rube, but I'm just excited about the idea of haptics. Like it always like I had I don't know where I have no idea where my phone is actually. I used to have the iPhone that has the fake button, the one that had the thing. And I love that. In my brain, that was a button. Like in my brain, it was a physical thing you were pushing down on.
Was it not a button?
No, it's not. It's fake.
No, it's a haptic feedback. It's not there.
Wait, you mean the ones with the button here, and then you?
Yeah, that's not a real button.
When it's like push to unlock, and it's not. That's a little vibration. Like that's haptics. Like that's what this. Yeah. So like.
What? I didn't know that.
Yeah. No, and like that's. I mean, the fact that they can make a smooth, like just flat, boring surface feel like there's actually it can do something. Like I don't know. Like if what happens if you dedicate a chunk of a entertainment device to that kind of technology and then give it to game developers who are making games about like talking strawberries and stuff. Like I'm just excited about like how do you like somebody will totally gamify haptics in this. Like there will be something where it's whether it's some of it might be stupid gimmickry, but I feel like some indie dev is going to pop out and be like, hey, here's a game where you are in a completely dark room and you have to navigate by bumping into stuff.
Yeah. Like, I have to imagine Sony's going to have a library of like haptic feedback that they give to developers. Like here's, 100 different things, mix and match, go at it. We really want you to use this cool feature that we built into our, really cool looking controller. So
yeah, it's possible that it's just a huge pain in the ass to implement. And I feel like video games are already enough of a pain in the ass, but yeah, I mean, it's weird that we have, thinking about weird gimmicks, when the Xbox One launched, they were like, yeah, we've got a cool new controller that there are like extra, vibration motors. And if you in Forza, if you drive on the median, you'll feel it in the triggers. Or if you like shoot a guy directly in the skull in Call of Duty, like it'll kick back, like you'll feel like the trigger recoil on the individual like triggers. And that was a thing at launch, and then it just sort of stopped. It just went away, and now it's no one really bothered with it. I kind of want like another pass at that. I want to see what happens when people are actually like, okay, so like video games, we think about this, they're predominantly like it's audio visual, but if there's suddenly like a touch element to it, I don't know. I think it's kind of cool. Anyway,
isn't it crazy? New consoles are coming out this year. I forget that sometimes.
No, it's like the saddest console launch year ever. But
yeah,
no, it's the light at the end of the tunnel for all of us.
It's the timeline that we live in.
What if they delay it?
I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm just throwing that out there. Like I don't
want to ever think about that.
Well, if
Sorry,
you have a Microsoft console, it doesn't really make a difference because it's all just the same. It's the same thing.
That's
Same.
True.
I guess I'm kind of like, I'm excited about it. It's nice to look forward to the idea of a big old box showing up and me being there to answer the door, because where the hell else am I going to go? And then being like, all right, my new thing is here. And then opening it up and then being like, I could have played these things on my old thing. Like, this is all.
Yeah, but you get to see
so
that
bleak.
splash screen for the very first time that you never get to
Yeah.
see again.
You get that extra
you never
HDMI
shut
cord
up.
you've had your eye on, like
Oh, that's true. Add it
finally.
to the bundle.
I remember like when I
Yeah.
first got my PS4 being like really stoked on it for a minute, being like,
Yeah.
this is awesome. And then I was like, all right, what am I gonna? And I played like Resogun and Blacklight Retribution, and I was like,
Yes, that's
give
what
me a-
everybody
yeah.
plays.
I guess that's what'll be sad about the fact that you can play kind of whatever on Microsoft's hardware, because it's not really a console launch if you don't only have 1 to 2 games to play. You know, it's not really the experience if you're like, I'm going to play this random indie game I never would have played otherwise because it's the only thing available in the shop that isn't just random drag and drop stuff. Like, I think we're going to lose that sense of it because everything is just kind of carrying over. But
Yeah.
that's okay.
Well, I read online that 2020 is like 85% Thursdays, so I don't know, like a day when a new console comes out will be
Wait, I
incrementally
love
more.
Thursdays. You don't like Thursdays? Thursdays are my favorite day of the week.
Get out of here.
Friday Eve.
You don't like Thursdays? Thursdays are the best because there's
Thursdays
so
are
much
good.
to look forward to. So I'm still looking forward to Friday. I still have Saturday to look forward to, and I have Sunday. And
True.
so it's like there's so much. You're at like the peak of the roller coaster. You can just see everything and all of your plans and free time and
You
excitement.
still have time to get stuff done before the week's over, but you're close enough where you can also just write it out. It's like a choose your own adventure for like, how much you want to work.
I feel like
Thursdays
no.
are the best.
Thursdays are. I think they're not.
Thirsty Thursdays?
I don't hate
Thursday's
them.
got a bunch of stuff.
Any day can be a thirsty day. You can,
Thursday,
True.
just
Friday,
drink
that
out-
really makes sense.
Thirsty Friday. That actually
Sound
sounds. That sounds like I'm having a stroke. That's actually confusing. Anyway, yesterday my wife referred to Elizabeth Moss, the actress, as Elizabeth Moths, and I can't unthink that.
It's really good.
Like,
She's come
just-
a long way
just
since
a-
Mad Men.
What's that?
I said she's come a long way since Mad Men. I mean, not that she wasn't fantastic in Mad Men, but
Her fame has
Yeah.
blown up.
her star has risen.
You could
Anyway.
say she emerged from her cocoon.
There we go.
You
Yeah.
could say she emerged from. Oh, dang it! Never mind.
Wow. Anyway, so let's shift gears to talk about Donkey Kong Country in the year of our Lord 2020, the game from 1994 that you just can't get rid of it. That gorilla and his friend who wears the sweater, they are back, baby.
Yeah.
So yeah, Donkey Kong Country is going to be coming to Nintendo Switch Online, along with a whopping 2 other old games, which are
Yeah.
Natsume Championship Wrestling for Super Nintendo.
Everybody's favorite wrestling game for the Super
The
Nintendo.
number 1 wrestling game of all time.
Yep.
God, I could hear this music in my head. And then, of course, the Immortal for NES, which is about like Wizard Caverns or
It's
something.
about a wizard. He fights
About a wizard
ghouls.
looking for his mentor.
Hey, really
Are
quick
you-
producer note. Donkey Kong is amazing. How dare you?
Yeah, Donkey Kong Country is great.
No, that's what I'm saying. Donkey Kong Country rules.
But
It's
it
a
doesn't
great
have
game.
the DK wrap.
It's more than just like, I don't know, like why wasn't this out here sooner? Like, why didn't they
Right.
come out the gate for like, okay, we have SNES online games. It's everything that was on the Super Nintendo Classic. We'll get to some other stuff and put other things on there. It's like, good. Everyone should play Donkey Kong Country. It's such a good
It's tough.
game.
Especially
Big
too,
game.
can you like scum
Okay.
your way through this with rewinding? Like, I don't know if that's been confirmed or not. I think it's available.
Yeah, that's just a
that's a feature for all of the games, right?
that's just a feature of the Nintendo Online SNES service. So yeah, you'll be able to avoid some frustrations in the
That's great.
minecart levels.
That
nice.
game's hard as hell. Like the Donkey Kong games in general, even like the more modern ones can be fairly
That's what it'll
challenging.
look like.
Once on the like from that whole early era, they were just extremely difficult. Because wasn't it like you could only save when you got Kong, right? That was like how some of the earlier ones were set up. Am I remembering that correctly?
This makes me
I
really
think
happy
so. I
watching
don't-
this. Sorry, Janet.
I don't remember
I'm
this game.
listening,
I
but
played
I'm
this-
so distracted.
Yeah, it's all. I remember playing. I think Land, the the yellow cart on the Game Boy Pocket or the Game Boy in general, and I remember that being a thing. Like you had to get Kong, which was like. So then you had to decide, like, do I replay the levels so I can try to save, or do I just like try to maybe do the next one? But then you won't have any of those issues with it having it with its rewind feature. So that's exciting because now it'll be like a lot more accessible to play, and you don't have to just be perfect.
I love it. I love this game so much. This was no joke. The first game I remember using the words graphics in regards to. Like I don't know how. Like I was in 3rd grade. I was standing in the stairwell in front of my school, and I was talking to my friend Ben Wiesner, and I was like, "Dude, it has amazing graphics." And I was like, "Where did that word come from? I don't know where I learned that. I think I heard that
from the graphics jar."
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Oh, that's right.
Open it on
the jar that keeps on giving.
Yeah.
It's funny that you say that because there was a time when I was younger that there really wasn't a word to describe what graphics were. If that makes any sense, because I am so old. Like you would just be like, it looks like a cartoon. Yeah. It's got cartoon like
my favorite is like before not knowing what 3rd person camera was and referring to things as being Tomb Raider view.
That's so precious.
So like that's what I'm saying about like I don't know how we consume games and how we understand them has changed a lot. Like there's just
Well, and even getting back to what we were talking about with the saves, I feel like that's not as common, like having scarcity in saves. And I think that there's a generation of players who are very strategic about things, and that's something that's constantly on your mind. And then there's this newer generation that's like, I'll just save anytime. I'll just reload my save. Let's just whatever. And they just don't understand how good they have it.
Yeah. Also just checkpoints.
Yeah.
I don't know, like having to like dying and being like, oh, I have to do all of this again? Like you hate my time. And it's like that's a weird holdover from when a giant sarcophagus that smelled like cigarette smoke was trying to get you to put quarters into it. Like the idea of like video games being like, you got to do it again, or you have to give me money. Like that's like I don't know. That's just a weird.
Which it's funny because we really have come around back to that, like with certain like microtransactions or like other ways like games nickel and dime you. It's like games were created to just get more money. Like that is actually it's all just looped around, and like we see like how history kind of resurfaces, but. It's cool that there's finally some new games on the SNES Online or NES Online. I think they recently had another drop too, Seth. It was like shortly after we did NBC that one time.
Yeah.
Not very specific, but it was like a month ago or something.
For the NES, yeah, it was last month, and I can't remember off the top of my head what the SNES games were. But
yeah, I think that's also a problem, right? Like and this is no shade to some of the games that came out, because I know some of them are just awesome games that I'm not familiar with because I was like 4 when I was playing the SNES. So like I wasn't exactly, skimming all the magazines.
No, I don't think that's just you, because I've definitely like there's classics, there's like bona fide like old school games that people love, and then there's ones that are like just kind of weird. They're not.
Well, yeah. The selection is they'll put one either like huge classic like Donkey Kong Country, or they'll put something that you remember pretty fondly, and then they'll throw in a game from City Connection Limited, who bought the rights to, I think, like Jalico and like maybe LJN. They bought all these really crappy games, and I think they have like photos of Nintendo because they show up a lot on this subscription service.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I really don't get why they're not immediately hitting like the greatest hits. Like we all know what those are, and they're like, what if I only gave you like one of those every 2 years?
Right.
And we're like, well, I guess I'll get excited for this because I'm a Nintendo fan and I'm not used to getting anything, so I'll just take it. But yeah, I really hope I would love to see them come out with a consistent cadence and clear plan for this. And it's kind of wild they can get away with not having one, but here we are.
It's a bummer. Put out some of those weirder games. That is also true.
It's so
it's true. I have 2 Switches, and I have no excuses or justifications.
Okay. So anyway, speaking of beloved things we remember from our childhood, the Ready Player 2, the sequel to Ready Player 1, if you couldn't put that together, is getting a publishing date. It's coming out, the book, not the movie, is coming out November 24th. This is the follow-up to Ernest Cline's best-selling novel about 80s nostalgia and virtual reality and all that, and which got, of course, a massive Steven Spielberg blockbuster movie, which did very well at the box office. And we've heard murmurs about this for a while. Ernest Cline said in interviews that he had sort of thought about doing it, uh, not so subtly, being like, if the movie is successful, they'll probably want to make a sequel movie. I should probably sell a book based on that screenplay, or that will become that screenplay. So he's making another one of these ones in book form, and that's it. That's all we know right now. Yeah, there it is.
It's available for pre-order at Amazon.
Did any of you guys
right
read
now.
the first book?
Yep, I did.
So I wanted to, but Seth, are you the only one that read it?
I read it when it first came out. My brother was like, dude, you got to read this book. And I read it in like 2 days. And I thought it was phenomenal. Not as like a written book. I just thought it was a lot of fun. And I was really excited on it. I read it a second time and I was like, I don't like this book at all anymore. I don't know what happened between the first time and the second time. But I think the first time I read it, the whole time I was reading it, and this was before it kind of blew up, I was like, oh, this is like a free writing assignment that I would have done in like 7th grade, where I just imagine all this like virtual reality weird stuff, happening. Because that's basically how it reads. It reads like just reference after reference that you would just throw in there because you're super into it. It's not high literature. It's not high art at all. The premise of it, I really like, but the execution wasn't so great. I enjoyed the movie too. I thought it was a lot of fun, and I liked seeing all the references. And I don't care what literally every person online has to say about this movie and book, because have some joy in your friggin' hearts. What? Yes.
You watch the movie a second time and then be like, actually, I don't like the movie at all.
I'll tell you what. We all went as a family, and Connor, my oldest son, brought his like best friend, and we were like so excited. I think that might have helped to make it better. But since then, they've expressed no desire to watch it again, even though they absolutely loved it. They loved the premise. They still like reference it sometimes. They'll make like a joke about the Oasis. But no, I haven't watched it the second time. Read the book once. Don't expect anything going into it other than like completely mindless. I don't know.
So
I guess
what I'm curious about is this also, like, the book came out in 2011, which was before we sort of got this deluge of like 80s nostalgia centric stuff. Like, we didn't have Stranger Things, we didn't have It, we didn't have, I feel like there's a lot of like, there's been a lot of sort of nostalgia for like retro things. And also that was the kind of hook of the first Ready Player One. And I'm really curious to see how he tackles that, or how he deals with it. 'Cause I don't know. I feel like there's a sort of zeitgeist that goes with that, but when when your first go-to bread and butter thing is nostalgia, like, is he going to do? I don't know.
Well, it's 80s nostalgia too. So like everybody who's nostalgic for the 80s is like my age. It's like me and like Jared Petty and Sam and like Damon. We're like all the 80s kids, and we're not in the we want your money demographic anymore. We've gone past that. Now it's like the 20-somethings who are nostalgic for like the 90s and the early 2000s, which is why you have like vaporwave and mall-soft music now, which is just this weird, 90s throwback thing. So what I'm trying to say is I hope Ready Player 2 is just a really high art vaporwave mixtape.
I think what's kind of unique, though, with what you bring up, Seth, and this is not to make you feel like a million years old, but
no, I am though. That's fine.
Being born in the 90s, like I was born in 94. There's definitely nostalgia for the 90s and that era and that gaming for me and all that. But I also have like weird. It's not really nostalgia because I didn't live through the 80s, but I have like a connection to the 80s through like my dad, who was his youth. Like when he was my age, it was the 80s, and all I would hear growing up is 80s music. That's literally all I listened to. It was on all the time. I'm like, I hate this. This sucks. It's like my dad's music. And then as I got older, I'm like, ooh, I'm into this. And now I also like really love 80s music. So, and I think that's why Stranger Things and like these other kind of media that's from the 80s, it kind of hits both ways, because you have the parents and then you have the kids that kind of like co-opted some of the parents' stuff, and they also have their own nostalgia, and there's like all these layers. So yeah, I think that it has that going for it. I didn't read Ready Player One, the book, but I did watch the movie, and I liked the movie. I had a good time with it. I know everyone hates it and drags it and thinks it's like, I don't know. I'm not looking to do a deep analysis of this. Like, it was a fun time, and that was good enough for me. I enjoyed it. I'm like, it wasn't like, I wouldn't be like, oh, what's really good, Ready Player One, but it was solid. Like, I think it was a solid film. I don't know how the book was, but I will definitely watch the second one. I guess it will be, I don't know if we'll have theaters again, but if we did have theaters, I would go if it wasn't a death sentence.
Well,
yeah.
I think the book coming out this November means we won't get a movie for at least like 2 years.
Yeah.
And by then, who knows what weird disease will be melting our faces.
Fair
Can't wait.
point.
Optimistic. I like it.
All right, so on the subject of dystopias and futures and whatnot, there were a bunch of Watch Dogs Legion images that leaked because Ubisoft has an event coming up, and we got to look at these. And here they are.
All right, good old Macklemore there.
They are.
Yeah, and these look like they were. What are we, Janet? What are we allowed to say?
We're allowed to. So me and Max have both previewed the game, and the preview embargo is up on Sunday at 12:45 PT, and y'all should come to IGN.com because we'll have content on it. I did the
Keep it
doing
locked.
the preview, and that's all I can. Like, I'm not gonna obviously comment on like anything related to whether or not these are the validity of these leaks or anything, but I guess from those of us who haven't played it, like, I don't know. What do you think the validity is, or do you like?
Why
what
not
you've seen from
rub it
that?
in
Like, does
more,
that tell you
Janet?
anything?
These look fake to me. I don't know if these are legit.
Yeah,
I'm
I don't know.
kidding,
So, okay, I was really excited about this game, and to be honest, I kind of forgot that it was in development and a thing until recently. So I am excited. I think personally, as the way that I handle leaks is I try not to look at them.
Well, too bad.
which-
Look at them. Look at them go.
Bad news.
There they are.
No.
Which, like, I mean, just because, okay, so this might be like really sappy, and I get that people want information and whatever. But my thing with leaks, tangent coming, is that these people working on this game have been keeping this secret from the public and working on this thing for so long and putting their hearts and souls onto it. And somebody just like you rob them from being able to be the people that are unveiling all of the hard work and getting to like usher that into the public and control, what they show you and explain, da 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 da. I try to stay far away from leaks. I usually only look into them if we're talking about it on the Daily Fix or like on this show. So I didn't look into like what the reception of them was, but I don't know. Leaks bug me out, if I'm being honest.
So yeah, let's talk about this. I think that I'm again, like Jan and I have, we checked this game out. We didn't go anywhere. No one's gone anywhere. We've done this remotely, and I don't know how in depth we can get about how the whole process of that is. But a couple weeks ago there was the sort of massive hands-on that people did with Cyberpunk. They didn't go anywhere. They didn't go to a physical place and play a PC directly. Everything is streamed, and from the looks of it, some of the stuff that has leaked is like captured, whether screenshotted or recorded from the streaming version of the game, which is not ideal. Like you're seeing it. It's like when you see a cam rip of a movie when somebody's in there with a phone pointed at the screen. And I'm seeing some of the comments on stuff that's leaked, sort of ahead of this Ubisoft stuff, being like griping about the graphics, and I feel like that's like it's not. Again, I did this thing where when they streamed when they did the Ghost of Tsushima reveal, whatever, and like I was so mad because I took a bunch of I literally screen capped my my monitor. I just did I grabbed a thing of the stream when they were showing off the black and white mode, and I was like, holy crap, this looks like a Kurosawa movie. This is so cool. And I got all these people who were like, no, this looks like crap. This is garbage. And it's like it's a game. Like it's not going to be a JPEG that I took off my computer screen on a YouTube video. Like everything in there is compressed and filtered and watered down on so many levels. And I don't know, how many ways that we're actually watching, like whether it's a trailer reveal or a stream or whatever. How many cases of those are you looking at it in like true HDR and 4K in whatever resolution it's going to be on the actual device you're going to be playing it on? Like it's
basically zero.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a huge.
It's this weird flip side of bull shots where publishers would put out way too over polished screenshots back in the day, and people are like, it's not going to actually look like that in action. And now it's this weird inverse of that where we're getting the means in which we're consuming this visual information isn't capable of actually outputting what it's going to look like in reality. I don't know. It's just a thing I noticed. I don't know.
Yeah, I think
you get a lot of.
Oh, go ahead, Seth.
I was just gonna say, if you stream something, you get a lot of artifacts. You get a lot of weird compression things that are off. When I was a news freelancer, one of the things that I used to do was when they reveal a game with a stream, I would have to screenshot to build slideshows, and they always looked absolutely horrible. But that was like our stopgap measure between when the trailer, 5 seconds after the trailer's done, we've got a slideshow, and when they send the assets that actually were taken in game with whatever screenshot, whether it's just hitting F12 in Steam or whatever, something like that, real in-game graphics. So yeah, it's gonna look bad.
Yeah, I think
weird.
this is pretty unfortunate too, considering when leaks happen so close to an event where presumably we don't know if we'll see this data or these screenshots in the event on Sunday, but they are going to be talking about the game, so it's oh, you were so close. And that same thing happened with Valhalla too. And this is, I feel like Ubisoft often is kind of a leaky place. It's not the first time we've seen leaks from this studio, but
oh my god, you're right.
Yeah,
every Assassin's Creed game gets leaked.
That's why everyone's oh, Ubisoft. So yeah, I'm not gonna get into conspiracy theories because it's always they leak it themselves or all that other wild accusations. But it'll be interesting to see if there's ever if there's a long-term effect of us doing stuff remotely as well. When you go to a press event for people watching that haven't been in those situations, you have people around you, and people would know if you just took your phone and took a picture of the screen or something. And sometimes there's you can't always use your own capture, or they send you it, or they do, there's all these different protocols sometimes set in place to prevent leaks. But if it's just at people's houses, who's to stop people from leaking it? Granted, we didn't really see any leaks with Cyberpunk. So once again, this is not to blame Ubisoft for the leaks that happened to them, but it'll be interesting to see if this happens with other studios and if that causes information to be delivered differently, or if that kind of might hurt coverage of different games leading up, especially into next gen.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of frustrating just because we have to sign papers and stuff saying that we're not going to reveal something until a certain date, or we have to keep stuff under wraps, and that's sort of it's sticky, but it's there's not there's an alternative where companies take the Rockstar approach, and they're yeah, we're not going to show you anything. Nothing will see the light of day until we're ready to show it off. I don't know, which is better, being oh, this game is out in 6 months. Here's some screenshots. Here's a trailer. Here's some hands-on stuff. Maybe some of it leaks, versus there's not even confirmation this thing exists until someone says it's okay. I don't know. It's odd. Also, video games are super duper buttoned up compared to other forms of media.
Yeah.
The amount of half the cast of The Mandalorian season 2 is already out there in the wild, being yeah, this actor's playing this character. These people are all confirmed, and it's oh, okay, so somebody's agent just sort of blurted that out, and you can find out so much about what happens in movies just from from reading trades, or from know what's going on with projects. You see leaked set photos of people being yeah, the new Batmobile looks like garbage, and it's they haven't made the movie yet. They actually stopped making the movie. They're in the middle of it. But video games, I think, because they're sort of rooted in technology, and the fact that they're developed in much more controlled environments, there usually is a lot more sort of careful, keeping of secrets and keeping things under wraps. So I don't know. I always love when we get my favorite kind of leaks are stuff that was supposed to could have happened or almost happened, but never saw the light of day. And then somebody's hey, I was working on a Victorian Batman game. Surprise! Here's early test footage. It'll never come out. Or that TT Games Lord of the Rings game that was kicking around for a minute.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, here's a segue. Speaking of things that will never happen or that never saw the light of day, one of the artists who was working on Call of Duty Modern Warfare showed off some photos on his Instagram of what it would have looked like if they were putting zombies in the game. Obviously, Modern Warfare stressed the realism of war and all that, and kind of was a return to form. And they cut the zombies mode because zombies currently aren't real, but it's 2020.
Give it time.
Yeah. Put that out there, Max. I couldn't do zombies.
But yeah, this is this guy named Aaron Beck posted this, and it's basically internally they were kicking ideas around, trying some stuff out, and this was sort of his vision of what maybe realistic zombies in Call of Duty would look like. And he's got this Russian Spec Ops mercenary dude who's walking. He's got some Boston Dynamics drones walking zombies on a leash, which is badass.
Yeah, I'm extremely into this. The zombies mode in Black Ops 4 was the funnest mode that I never played. So that might have had something to do with them not
It was
putting
a
it
lot
in
of fun.
here. But, I mean, it's super fun.
So my understanding of the situation is that my brain is completely blanking right now, but the last Infinity Ward game that they put out did have zombies and it wasn't super well received. And this Modern Warfare had Spec Ops, which is something that was in Modern Warfare 2, and it's the co-op version, like co-op missions that they included in this. So my understanding in the articles that I read is that they kind of like swapped zombies for Spec Ops, or Spec Ops for zombies. But I think this is a really interesting concept. I'd imagine we'll see zombies coming back for whatever the COD title is in probably. Oh my gosh! Wow! Oh my gosh! It's still lying. We still know. Sorry, I realized that it hasn't been coming out in November for a while. But whenever Call of Duty comes out, I imagine it'll have zombies. It's supposed to be Treyarch who is developing COD this year. And I personally think that it's going to be a reset remake of Black Ops. So that's my personal, I'm putting that on the table right now. There's a lot of hints that it's going to be Cold War. I think it makes sense to either be a prequel of Black Ops 1 or be a reset of Black Ops. And I think
whatever it is, we know it'll score a 10, just like all the other Call of Duties on IGN.com.
I don't know. What do we usually give CODs? I feel like
we've literally never given it a 10. So.
I feel like they usually float around like 7 point something to like 8.
It varies.
Yeah.
I think we
have to break it up now into pieces.
Yeah, which makes sense.
And also, no matter how low we score it, it's always one of the best-selling games of the year, if not the best-selling. So who cares?
It's almost as if review scores don't influence what consumers buy, because that is a fact. Like, there's data to back that up. No one cares what stuff.
But I think to go back to him showing the concept photos and knowing that Activision gave them okay, I hope that we get to see more of this kind of stuff, because it was kind of fun to see like what could have been and hear like Aaron's thoughts on what he was going for. Like I don't know. I thought that was really insightful and fun and exciting. So
I kind of like just imagining what the mechanics of this would be. Like, maybe you get like a kill streak where instead of just being like, oh, you've got like a cool drone that's backing you up, you get a drone that has zombies tied to it and they bite people. Like that's a nightmare.
Yeah.
I will say when I saw this and I saw the quadruped robots, I instantly was kind of glad they didn't do this, because that seemed really hard and stressful, and like I just probably sweat a lot.
Dude, you play tons of shooters, but you hate the scary things, right?
I hate scary things, but so COD Zombies is the only thing that I can stomach, but otherwise, like it has to be in a situation, like the only horror games I've actually finished, I play with Alex and we switch off the controller, because I just feel more comfort having somebody else with me. I hate being scared. Why do that? Video games, I want to have fun, not be stressed. I'm stressed enough.
But the horror of war is not stressful enough. You can't. I love that you're like, yeah, zombies, they're scary. And then it's like, but, white phosphorus airstrikes, like, piffle.
Okay, do you want to hear? I will go really fast because I see that we're running out of time. But my thing with zombies is that if it's a human coming after me, trying to kill me, there are many things that I can do to stop said human. I won't get into them, but you can defend yourself. If it is a supernatural being, that like, where do the zombies come from? What is their motive? Like, they don't understand personal space. Like, there's so many issues with zombies that go against what I would like an encounter like that to go, that like, I don't have time for it. I hate zombies. They're stupid. Literally, they're stupid. And they probably smell bad and they eat people. And like, the list goes on reasons to hate zombies.
Okay, that's fair. You heard it here first. Call of Duty, 10 out of 10, and zombies, they're stupid. What else do we have? So in the ongoing, just never-ending onslaught of things that just get delayed or pushed back or canceled or what have you, we have some updates on that. The Halloween sequels and the movie Candyman all got pushed back by Universal. Candyman is getting pushed 3 weeks from September 25th to October 16th. It'll be interesting to see if that actually sticks. I frequently forget what month it is. But anyway, Halloween Kills got delayed a full year from, it was supposed to be October 16th, 2020. It got pushed to October 15th, 2021, which makes sense because it would be pretty stupid to release a movie about Halloween in like May. Like they want to clearly capitalize on Halloween.
Oh,
the
yeah.
actual day.
Yeah, the devilish holiday.
The
Of nightmarish, spooky creatures.
and then Halloween Ends, which is the immediate sequel to that, is getting pushed another full year, and that is going to be apparently October 14th, 2022, which is a ways off. So I don't know. We just got done talking about how Sid hates scary things. What are your thoughts on Michael Myers?
Mine? Stay away from me, sir. I don't want anything to do with that.
All right.
But Candyman, I think, looks too scary for me, but looks really interesting. I won't see it, but I think it looks interesting.
I never watched the original, but I definitely want to. I hear this one's doing some interesting stuff, so I'm curious about it. And I was interested in. I like the most recent Halloween remake, sequel, reboot, whatever the hell you call that. So I'm kind of looking forward to these, but I'm also, again, like, what's scarier than the Michael Myers is going to a movie theater right now. So
do you think we'll see an influx of pandemic movies once we're past this?
No.
I don't think so.
We're all going to just forget this ever happened. We're going to look at our calendars. It's going to go 2019, 2021. We're just going to forget completely.
So
like the 13th floor of a skyscraper.
Somebody was saying that I was reading some article about this, about how there's, it's not like a rule, it's not like official or anything, but there's there's kind of an etiquette in Hollywood where you wait 6 years to tackle a real thing that happened. And I think people brought this up because Michael Bay just came out in the most Michael Bay-ish fashion, was like, yeah, I'm making a pandemic movie. And the Screen Actors Guild was like, hey, you're literally not. We have said, please don't make movies right now. It's dangerous. Please stop doing that. It was like they issued like a do not work thing. But somebody brought up how like the United 93 9/11 movie or the Deepwater Horizon oil spill movie, they both came out like there's sort of a grace period, or, what do you call it? Like statute of limitations on when it's seen as gross to put out like a real life movie. But I think we'll definitely see some pandemic movies. It's going to be hard to. It's going to be hard to like. I don't know how that's going to. Like, I feel like so many movies suck because of the introduction of cell phones, like as a thing that you just deal with, like where it's just like why didn't you just call your friend? Like why didn't you text somebody? And I feel like it's going to be hard to make a compelling movie where people are just stuck at home. Like it's a new challenge, I guess. But
I have some ideas, but I feel like I can't say them.
We could just say Marriage Story was during the pandemic.
I mean, you can definitely make some good movies about people stuck in a one place. It's just sort of like, I don't know. It's an added wrinkle, I guess. It's a thing you have to explain.
I think it just becomes like one of those things where, when you watch those movies where there's like a killer that comes and you're like, why don't you just leave the house? Just like leave the house. What are you doing? Leave the house. Now they can't leave the house.
There you go.
Okay, so last story here. This is a good one. They're making a Sims reality show. This is going to be called the Sims Sparked Reality Competition Show. And I don't know if that's the full title. I think it's just called the Sims Sparked. And it's going to be on TBS. And it is a 4-part series that'll air weekly, premiering on Friday, July 17th at 8 p.m. And it's produced with Turner Sports' esports and gaming entertainment brand eLeague and BuzzFeed Multiplayer. 12 contestants will be competing for $100,000, and there's a panel of celebrity judges, including BuzzFeed Multiplayer YouTube personality Kelsey Impeachike.
Nice.
I used to work at BuzzFeed.
Oh,
this is why I'm like, this is funny.
Sid, why aren't you on this show? You love The Sims, don't you?
Because I don't work at BuzzFeed anymore.
That's really fair.
I was confused when you said that this was a Sims reality show. I thought they were going to make people like live like out a real life Sims thing.
Sorry, I interrupted you, Max, just because this is really weird. I didn't see this at the bottom, and now I'm like, whoa! I feel like I'm in like a time warp. This is weird.
I want to get your thoughts on this, because this is like I don't know.
You want to hear the insider juice?
Regularly derail stuff to talk about The Sims, so go for it. Whatever.
So I worked at BuzzFeed before it was I handled video strategy for BuzzFeed Blue, which was what BuzzFeed Multiplayer was before it became BuzzFeed Multiplayer. And it's interesting to see this because we were going off a totally different approach, and actually I helped conceptualize kind of that sim vertical that probably led to this, I'd imagine. Obviously I left and I don't know what happened in between, but it's cool to see that because there's some great people that work on that. But I don't understand what this is. Does anybody get it?
It's supposed to be like they're competing to make the most unique story, right? Is like the pitch, like who kind of creates the most unique universe and characters in Sims, which I think lends itself well because like I actually haven't played Sims like ever, which I really want to play because it's like a huge gap for me.
It's so
and I
good.
love like story
I'm excited
Sim
for you.
stuff, so I feel like it'll be perfect. But a lot of people that do play Sims like mention that it's just all drama based. So I think this will be a fun thing to watch.
Here's the thing: is it just hit me. I don't really like reality TV, and I also don't really like playing The Sims. But if you were to make a reality show that was entirely in The Sims and it was cut like a reality show and did all that stuff where it basically like it. I mean, that's what reality shows do is they just let a bunch of stuff happen and then they craft a narrative out of it. If you were to do like confessionals and just do like those awkward cutaways where it like zooms in on one person's face reacting to something and just stirs up a bunch of unnecessary drama, but it's The Sims, so people are like, launching rockets on the carpets in the living room and burning the house down, and death is there, and somebody deleted the ladder to get out of the swimming pool, so like people are stuck in existential drowning terror, and there's UFOs, and also like one of the characters is I don't know, the Terminator or like some random like I'd be into that.
I hope that it leaves room for that because I think there's also a part of The Sims that people take it like really seriously. In that, I hope that this reality competition isn't like who can like craft the most like I don't want to say boring, but like traditional narrative and take advantage of the tools, but that there is room for like, I drowned all of them in the pool and like I captured the headmaster so that my kids would never have to go to school again and just like stupid stuff. Like I hope it leaves room for that. I think I'll watch this.
I'm into it. Yeah, I would expect you to. I want to hear your thoughts on this. I think you should review the show. You should review the show.
That's a great idea.
Complicated. You're like, I used to work for these people. Anyway,
I was gonna say, do you think that's an ethical boundary?
No,
there's only one way to find out.
There are no laws anymore. Anyway, we're going to wrap things up here. We have lots more of news, games, and more tomorrow, same time, right here on IGN. All of you who can't tell that I'm looking at you, but the friends who are here, Sydney, Janet, Seth, thank you for hanging out and chatting, and everyone else who I should be pointing directly at watching at home, thank you for watching, and thank you for joining us. Same time tomorrow, and also we will have a very special Thursday edition of Up at Noon, which I should probably figure out what we're doing for that, but that'll be immediately afterwards. And for everything else, keep it right here on IGN.